Hey everyone, welcome back. We're here to talk about the ending, last two episodes of season two of Lower Decks. So that's season two, episodes 9 and 10. So, season two, episode 9. Let's talk about that one. What did you think of that episode?
Arguably the best part of the season.
Let's say
Yeah,
you see a bunch of lower decks from other the Vulcans, the Klingons, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it's like it was a nice surprise, because like you go in expecting, oh hey, it's just more lower decks, like and it's like looks like Boimler has to find himself a bridge buddy, while everyone's like trying to find stuff to do to occupy themselves on this 12-hour trip. But then as soon as he says that, we jump to a Klingon ship and we see their lower decks, and
yeah.
and then we go to see like a Vulcan lower decks. It was actually it was a nice pleasant surprise to see the formula for the series busted open for an entire episode.
Yep. I liked it. It was good.
yeah, that
Um,
was a funny episode. I like seeing the different perspectives, different cultures of how each cultural ship is running their lower decks, and
yeah.
I kind of got the vibe that each main character from that ship, was kind of like the Boimler in themselves, like not necessarily overachiever, but that that drive
Eager
and
to
wanting
please.
eager to please, wanting to become, a captain someday. And it was an interesting perspective. And let's not forget, they also covered the Packlid lower decks, and eventually,
Mhm.
another lower deck at the very end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's like that.
Borg,
That one. Yeah,
the inside joke.
yeah. So I argue that the Vulcan one was more like Mariner because it's like she was a loose cannon, man. She just like you just never knew what she was gonna do next. Like she was just out of control. For for Vulcans.
That's
You know.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, following her instinct and not keeping her emotions in check.
It's like following her gut, like her gut feelings, man. It's like, what kind of Vulcan is she? You know?
Yeah, I could agree with you on that. Like that, at least from the Vulcan perspective, that kind of had that Mariner personality of being the loose cannon, and actually coming through with a critical asset to the ship. But she's such a loose cannon that her quote unquote punishment is to join the Cerritos, where her attitude would
Well, they didn't say that. They said that the captain said he was going to transfer her to Starfleet. But it's like I'd be. I think you're absolutely right about that. I'd be very surprised if she didn't show up as part of the main crew for season 3.
Yeah, and that's that gut feeling I got, because we don't have. I can't recall ever seeing a Vulcan on that ship per se. So to me,
It's
like
like I don't.
you're,
We haven't.
yeah, so you're right. Like they didn't really say the Cerrito per se, but when he said Starfleet ship, that's like the first thing that popped into mind. Like, oh, okay, cool. We'll have a Vulcan that'll join our crew and kind of like mix it up a bit.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and don't forget Go Climb a Rock. That was the Star Trek Five reference, by the way. You were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Or the one,
That no, like climbing El Capitan, like
yeah,
flying around on the rocket boots.
yeah. And what did you think of you had the alien? He's like, wait, they're from Hawaii. It's like just some major butt kissing going on with that.
That
Um,
I find it funny how the legacy of that lie has spanned since what's his name, the not the captain, but the
First
uh
officer
First
ransom.
officer.
Ransom. Thank you. Like
Yeah,
Since Ransom was an ensign, like this lie has been kind of going on for decades. So that's funny.
yeah, hilarious. There's just some funny references. None of them.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's like I also like there's interesting how like the Klingon, basically the Klingon stuff basically kind of like furthered the overall narrative of this of the series about basically, hey, there's something going on with the Packlids here, and I appreciate the fact that this one at least, well, it's like it reined in like the stupid when it came to dealing with the Packlids, so I appreciated that.
yeah. Funny thing is that the Vulcan ships that you see, it's weird because you only saw like one Vulcan ship design in the original series, the original Next Generation, I should say. But those designs actually come out of Star Trek Enterprise. You know, the one with Scott Bakula from
Ah,
Quantum Leap. So I was like, oh, so when I saw that, first saw those ships, I was like, in this episode, I'm like, oh well, finally get to see because they're actually pretty cool looking.
They are.
The big ring
In-
and stuff, like, oh, that's neat. So they never got really represented in the first season, the first Star Trek Next Generation series because money and stuff. I'd say Enterprise rolled on everything was just a CG model anyway, so there was no like physical models. So they were like, hey, we could make this nice shit anyway. So it was cool seeing that, and yeah, it would be neat to see kind of that whole thing come out. So the whole, what should I say? Maybe a Vulcan will join that lower decks. That would be interesting. So all right, that's cool stuff. And
in case anyone out there, is wondering, the Klingon at the beginning translates to 3 ships. At least that's what I've read.
Okay, I didn't know that. 3 ships. Okay, so that's cool. I did not read that, and I appreciate the translation. Man, I was like, what was that? Okay. Okay, so moving on to the season finale, we've got episode 10. And episode 10 has it's kind of interesting.
10 has a so-so beginning, a kind of aggravating end, but a middle that is fantastic. And it's like really, let's say it was, if this episode was just the middle, I would have said this was the best part of the season because it's just like a great, like, oh my god, it's like the series is faced with like an impossible problem and they got to solve it in a limited amount of time. It's classic Trek stuff, and I thought they handled this excellently, but also just not forgetting the fact that, hey, this is still a comedy, so we still got to make room for the jokes, and they still did that too without sacrificing the drama. It was like I said, this middle of this episode was fantastic.
Yeah. You got a little bit of the conflict between Mariner and Mom because, Mariner overhears. I guess she's talking with somebody about like how she's going to get promoted, which is what her husband says essentially when they go and toast it. So, and everything else. And then, so she's kind of like pissy.
As you would expect her to be.
Yeah. So she's like, I just learned to get along with my mom. Now you're leaving? So, there's, and then the whole drama. Oh yeah. And then we see Captain Gomez, which was, and I had mentioned this to you guys, that this was actually a cameo from Ensign Gomez, who was an assistant to Geordi LaForge in the original Star Trek. And there was a line in there where she talked about what was it again? Something about
spilling coffee on a it's like there's worse things you can do to embarrass yourself in front of a captain.
Yeah, exactly. And she had, in one of those episodes, she had spilled coffee on Captain Picard, and she's like super apologetic in that episode. She's like, and he's just like, "I'll just go get a new uniform."
As you'd expect Picard to do.
Yeah. No, she's a captain. All right, great, fantastic.
Glad it worked out for her in the end.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then she's obviously she's friends with the captain of the series. So, but then that comes in, pivotal, and then they decide that they need to pretty much strip all the hull plating off in order to make it through this this. I don't know if it's like some kind of charged like asteroid field or whatever. So that
basically, if they hit any of the parts of this asteroid, it's gonna be like an EMP and knock out the entire ship. Yep. So they got to not strip out the hull to avoid that, and then basically pilot the ship manually without any input from the ship's consoles, and that's under ransom, and along with Mariner and the Andorian girl, scouting ahead for calling out the coordinates for as they pass through. It was a pretty tense, well executed scene. It's it's just basically showing you things are getting real, man. It's I think they pulled that off very well.
Yeah, it was lots of fun. What was your thoughts on it, Myron?
I enjoyed this episode a lot. I mean, I agree with Jason in which the middle of the episode in which we see the crew being presented with unsurmountable odds to remedy a bad situation, and how they all come together. And when things get tight, they all come together and work together and are able to overcome these obstacles. And despite how goofy this crew is, I mean, we see throughout the series just how when they all come together and work together, how they overcome the odds. And so, seeing Ransom be able to pilot, a Starfleet ship manually through an asteroid field was, quite impressive, and being able to save, I forgot Captain Gomez's ship, but being able to save that ship from crashing on a planet, that took crackerjack timing. And so I did really enjoy, the comedic aspects, especially, the porpoises, the little dolphins.
They call them the
Yeah.
cetacean, like I forget what they called them. This like the cetacean like section or something. That's hilarious.
I didn't know if that was a callback to maybe a past Star Trek reference, or maybe it's a little throwback to Sequest. Sequest, was that
Sequest
DS9?
DSV.
I think
Yeah,
both.
I think that's what I was thinking too, because you see Dolphins is crew and you think Darwin, or at least like us nerds who watch
Yeah.
Sequest think that.
Yeah.
They were pretty funny because they wanted to get Rutherford to jump in. Like, for some
just
strange
like-
reason, like they were like all
Like
into
you're
it or
sweaty, jump in with us.
something. Yeah.
they're getting all creepy with Rutherford, like, yeah, what's good for this, good skinny dip, and them just kind of like talking shit, about like, the whole situation. And when they save Boimler and bring him back to the surface, like, oh no, his blowhole is broken, save him.
Yeah.
It's just that was like a awesome little comedic aspect to this episode. But yeah, I mean, just I kind of love the way that this ended, because now I'm just intrigued, like, oh crap, dude, like I gotta wait till season 3. I mean, it just Empire Strikes Back you here. Sorry for the analogy, Star Trek fans, but
No.
just that cliffhanger, like, oh damn, dude, like how did this whole situation happen?
Because the Federation is dumb. That's
Yeah.
why. It's like, and that's kind of what ruined it for me, because I think, it's like, it's like it requires the Federation to be really dumb and not realize that the Packlids are complete idiots.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's just kind of frustrating me right here. It's like to get this kind of like the cliffhanger we get here, and plus it's also really obvious, how this is going to shake out, like in the end.
Yeah. So
I mean, hey, for all we know, we could get the Vulcan girl will show up, and like she'll provide help provide the evidence that exonerates Freeman, and it's like that'll help integrate her into the crew, which I'm fine with that. But at the same time, we all know it's not hard to look at this finale and go, it's like the final scene and go, oh, okay, we know where this is going, and can we just get there already?
Yeah, well, that's part of it, right? So, yeah, and I'd have to say it was like, like they're all lined up to like say goodbye to her, and she's being led away in handcuffs. It's just like, whoops. Yeah, so
yeah,
kind of ironically funny.
but that's that's why I like how they ended this with a cliffhanger to be continued, because it's that whole bait and hook approach. Like, we enjoy this series, and we knew that season 3 was greenlit, and I believe maybe even a season 4. But just knowing that, okay, now they've hooked me to where I am anticipating for this next season to start, and I can't wait. Now it's like got its hooks in to be deeper, and so and that's why I ended up subscribing to Paramount Plus in the first place, to kind of continue watching this, but also to see the other content as well. But this is a strong show to make me jump into that platform.
That's cool.
This finale was no best of both worlds. I mean, the final scene was no best of both worlds, but I am definitely looking forward to season 3. I mean, on one hand, it's like, if nothing else, like the fact that they were able to do a to be continued, like at the end of this season, like is kind of nice. Basically, it's acknowledging that, hey, it is coming back, and there is going to be gonna be a season 3. It's like I am definitely looking forward to to the next season. Hopefully, we'll get like more consistent like level of quality here rather than the parabolic curve that this season enjoyed. But yeah, it's like I'm definitely on board for season 3.
Yeah, I'd say that I heard that Star Trek Lower Decks it's already been referred to as like a love letter to the fans. I have to agree with that. However, there's like even if you're casually acquainted with Trek, it's sort of like it's still fun to watch, So, like I do like, by the way, the little tiny subplot in this episode was the one where Tendi gets the promotion. She thinks she's going to get canned.
Right.
I don't know. There's something about the doctor that I like, the little catty and stuff.
Yeah, she's hilarious.
I like that.
I like the cat doctor. She's great. Like, even though I think that Tendi's subplot was just like more the annoying sitcom stuff, where it's like that just annoys me about this series. They just like take the obvious stuff that, hey, if they actually talked to each other for just 1 second, this subplot would not have happened.
Right.
Same with Freeman and her, like, wanting to keep the promotion secret initially. It's like, come on, people. It's like, we know how this is gonna shake out. So like the first, that whole part of the business at the beginning really had me fearing for this episode, but fortunately it's like, that middle just basically was good enough to forgive that stuff. But still, come on, guys, do better next time.
Yeah, well, I didn't have too many problems with it, but I see exactly what you're talking about, though. So that's yeah, that's pretty much a sitcom structure in all ways.
Yeah. Now, what I find interesting that I was a little disappointed they didn't elaborate on was Rutherford's memory, and now that
nice little Easter egg drop, right? Like
that's a plot hook for season 3, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, I'm like, wait. He's like, oh, I think I remember something I'm not supposed to, and it's like, oh, that's it. So yeah, I hope we get more of that moving on to season 3.
So, yeah, that's pretty hilarious. Yeah. It's pretty hilarious they just dropped that there. And what did he say? He's like, oh, I think I got rid of all the bad memories, and I think there's something I'm not supposed to remember in that too.
Yeah,
or something to that effect. And I was like, that's nice. Okay. He's such a funny character like that, he's just like, he has this like ignorant kind of bliss about him. So I think it's funny. I think it's interesting, but yeah. I did particularly like the whole like Happy Freeman, like Captain Freeman Day or whatever it was, because this is like a play on the Captain Picard Day that they did in the 6th season, and it was funny because I think the Dolphins even mentioned something about that. I was like, yeah, that's for pups or something.
Yeah,
they just blow him off like, yeah, whatever. Like, are you gonna participate in Captain Freeman Day? And you're like, nah.
Like, that's for calves.
It's for calves. That's what it was. It's for calves. Yeah, but there's a lot to enjoy in this. And so season 2, definitely another just fun. I like it. That even the low episodes are still enjoyable to me. So that's pretty much my overall summary of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like the bad stuff wasn't terrible. It was just disappointing.
Mm-hmm, yeah. There's lots of Easter eggs for those people who like the Easter eggs, and I enjoy that too. I like that. I like how that they write these things into it. But then again, it's sort of like, oh well, there's not much else. I think it's good that they do this stuff. I like the references. I like all of them, actually, quite frankly, but I don't get them all. Some of them kind of go over my head a little bit, but that's okay. I think I still think it's worth it, from a Star Trek fan. I don't understand, it's like, okay, I don't think the humor is all that crass or crude, frankly, I was like, it's fine, there's that, it works for me. So yeah, I can't wait for the next season. So it's just my thoughts. Yeah, and just as a side note, guys, I have not watched the first episode of the Nickelodeon series. I think no. It's actually available on YouTube. You can stream it
Okay.
for free, so you can watch it for free. You don't even need Paramount Plus to watch it. But
I mean, Prodigy, right?
yeah, Prodigy. Here's my thing. I think I started watching about the first 5-10 minutes of it. And I get a very Star Wars vibe out of it. Real strong Star Wars vibe out of it.
I
That's
can
my
agree.
2 cents.
I can agree with that. Like, I don't know, like, for me, like it just, it just looks way too geared towards, like a younger audience, and that's cool to bring in like, a younger audience into the brand. But I agree with you when I see commercials for it, it reminds me a lot of like Rebels
Yeah,
or what was that? There was like I like Rebels, but then there was like a more kiddier one. It was like Rise of the Resistance or the
yeah.
like something like that. The Resistance Star Wars cartoon that came after Rebels, and
Hmm.
I didn't care for that either because that was geared more towards that younger audience. And so, more power to this franchise. I mean, I feel like Star Trek is getting a new breath of life. Post the reboot movies, because I know for a while fans were clamoring after Into Darkness, like what's up with the Star Trek franchise? Like what's next? What's going on? And so with apps like Paramount Plus, I mean, whether you like the shows or not, I mean, you got Picard, and then what's the latest show? That's pretty
Discovery.
Discovery. You have Discovery, and now you have two animated shows. Like, hopefully, this means that the brand is getting that new fresh breath of life that is going to enable more projects to be expanded upon. Even well, I think you said there's a new series coming out based off of Commander Pike, right?
Yeah, it's called Strange New World. So it's
Strange
basically
New
the
World.
the Enterprise before Kirk. So yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, for Star Trek fans, I mean, this is, I mean, I don't know if I would say this is like a golden age, but it's something to be excited about. Especially if you're into something, whether it's anime, sci-fi, whatever. Like when you see that franchise you love, like being expanded upon and giving you new adventures to experience with, it's a great feeling as a fan. And so I feel like Star Trek fans are getting their overdue check, so to speak.
yeah. I'd say here's my 2 cents because I tried to watch Picard. I watched enough of it to where I was like, I did not care for it.
Hmm.
And same thing with Discovery. I gave it a real fair shake, and I just it really wasn't my cup of tea. I'm more interested probably in Strange New Worlds because they said it would be a return to form, short story form, and I kind of like that. I think Star Trek fits best in that universe, although it can have those arcs as well, like in Deep Space Nine. I think that loose arcs. They did it also in Star Trek Enterprise. Um, Prequels are always kind of a tough sell anyway, no matter what you're talking about,
Hmm.
because there's always something that's established and all that. Now, it's interesting because arguably Star Trek had, we talk about like things like the MCU and stuff like that. It's like, oh, there's this whole continuity. Like Star Trek had this continuity going on like in the 90s. Like they were doing that. They were already like, so people, you had like two TV series, you had movies and all this stuff and like
You had
similar
three
ship
TV series.
designs. Yeah, three TV series in the 90s. And it was just like, so they kind of had their own universe in a lot of ways. Now, Alex Kurtzman is not my favorite person on the planet. Okay. Um,
Mine
uh,
neither.
yeah. So him being executive producer over these things, I think it's better if he lets other people take care, like just take care of this. I think Lower Decks has even made fun of him. So that's kind of interesting. I'm just curious as to how, like, I might watch the Strange New Worlds if it has really interesting stories in it. Um, So I'm kind of interested in it. Although, arguably, Kurtzman has not been the best like gatekeeper of the Star Trek franchise. I do like this show, Lower Decks, and this other one might be a really good one too. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on it. And I know people enjoy it, and if you enjoy it, great, fantastic. But I'm not one of those people because I enjoyed the older stuff as well, and I have a hard time reconciling it. What's really funny is to watch like the Red Letter Media guys go through like Discovery and things like that, or especially Picard.
But they hate it, don't they?
Well, so it's an interesting set of dialogues because there's Rich and I forget the other guy's name. Anyway, so the older I don't know. He winds up talking about. He's like, okay, I saw this in Picard, but remember this in the TV show? And the other guy's like, dude, you can't think like that anymore. You can't bring up stuff like that. And I'm like, but it was kind of like established. Like this stuff was kind of, and then, and a lot of stuff that was brought about in like Picard was pretty much, it just kind of like changed a lot of the continuity. And I'm like, okay. My biggest problem is I think they change things to appeal to other facets, and that's kind of like what bothers me more. It's like it feels gimmicky in a lot of ways, and I'm like, okay, so we'll just forget about all those other episodes that you did, with Data and all that, and then we'll just throw this into that. So we'll throw these things into there because those episodes never even mattered. So in a lot of ways, I understand their point of view because he's just like a fan of the old show, and then you're like, we don't really care about it. It's like they just got a whole bunch of new writers, and it's like none of them really watched any of that stuff, and they just
Right.
we'll just write stuff the way we were. It would be like somebody coming along to write up a whole brand new set of Iron Man movies, in the MCU. It's like, oh, we didn't it's all this stuff with the old way we wrote Tony Stark sucks. So let's just do this instead. Let's just disregard this and let's just do that. And I'm like,
kind of hard to. I get what you're saying, but I imagine it's kind of hard for them to do this for the MCU because the MCU is that there's like a lot of oversight that would prevent them from doing something like that in the first place.
So one of the more clever things I think Star Trek franchise has done is what J.J. Abrams did.
Mm-hmm.
I think J.J. with them creating the Kelvin universe, and Myron, essentially this is what you're talking about. Gave them this other creative path to go with it, right? It's like, it's like Doc Brown's diagram, here's where the timeline's skewed, right? And that's essentially what the J.J. Abrams version of Star Trek does. It goes down that other path, right? Huh?
Mm-hmm. An alternate 1985, yeah.
That's right. It's an alternate 1985. By the way, did you catch that? I think in for the Lower Deck, what did she say at the end? It's like, it's not. She makes reference to the 80s, and I was like, are you guys looking in the 80s, or is that like a reference to is it like a fourth wall reference to something? 1980s. Anyway, go back to this thing. So, so it's just kind of like, all right, now you can kind of live with this Kelvin timeline, right? I liked it. I was like, okay, cool. This one can continue to be doing its thing, and then this one here, where Kirk is, running around like a crazy man, and things are different, and he's listening to Beastie Boys all the time. It's great. You can live with that universe. Maybe not Into Darkness. That was kind of
it was disappointing.
It was, but I did like what was it called? The one
Beyond.
after it. Beyond. Yeah, that was really
Beyond
good.
is pretty great.
Yeah. And yeah, I did. And it's that's a pretty good movie. So and I recently rewatched that first Star Trek movie, and it was pretty good. I was like, you can really like it. It's really fast. Spock's in it, but all that.
Hey kids,
it's Spock. So But yeah, anyway, I don't think of. By the way, I don't think of like Star Trek as being anything like hard. It's not to me. It's not hard sci-fi. I mean, you know, I think it has its. I think it has its mysticism in it as well. So you know, so that's just my 2 cents. Why do I say that? Because a lot of people say it's hard sci-fi, and I totally disagree with that. I just think it's its own thing. Anyway, final thoughts, guys.
Well, it's like I appreciate you like getting me involved in it's like in lower decks. As far as all the other stuff, well, it's like I'm open to like whatever else you have to recommend. For for the current Trek universe. But I got it's like I'm kind of I guess I'd be waiting for like any kind of huge critical consensus. Tell me like, oh, I need to watch this Star Trek series because I don't know. It's like a lot of the stuff I've heard is just like it's a lot. It's very divisive or particular. It's like Myron's right about like Star Trek. Like being like having like all sorts of stuff to appeal to all sorts of fandoms. Even though like there's just the flip side to that is like there's a sense of they're throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. So, but hey, it's like glass half full. It's like I hope it works out for them. It's just it's like I'm invested in lower decks at this point. Everything else, meh, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm the only thing I would be worried about is one word: oversaturation. Like like I think that by the time Star Trek Enterprise rolled around, like the last Star Trek TV series that was on before anything else, and then it was canceled. I think fans were pretty much like, okay, there's movies, and we've seen like 3 other series now, and people were pretty much tired of it. Like going back and so some of the criticism, even of Star Trek Voyager, is like literally it's like Star Trek fatigue. I think this here has like whatever they're doing here. I mean, I like the lower decks, but the danger still exists of like, you're going to oversaturate this stuff, and that might be a problem,
Yeah.
That's a problem with any franchise. Like, too much of any one good thing is never great.
Nope.
I don't need a buffet. I just need entertainment.
Yeah, and that's how I felt about like this recent rebirth with Star Wars. I mean, like the Star Wars trilogy, and it's like looking back at it, it's like, yeah, I did enjoy the Force Awakens. That was good member berries, but then with the riptide of like money that could be made and products and more spin-off projects, like I felt like the movies derailed from the spirit of like what made Star Wars special, and then we got that resurrection with shows like The Mandalorian and what I feel the Book of Boba Fett's going to offer. And so like with Star Trek, just like you both are stating, there's this wave, there's this resurgence of popularity in the brand, and they got to be careful on like as Jason so eloquently put, throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like
I'm all about the eloquence.
Like you gotta put care in these projects that would appeal to fans new and old, and stick with something that's going to have some longevity. You know what I'm saying? Like, when's the last time they had a long running Star Trek show? Like, was it Enterprise? Like, how many seasons did that last?
5.
4.
4.
5,
oh, 4. 4. Sorry.
Yeah,
4, right.
And the 3 that came before it, all lasted 7 each.
Yeah, so case in point right there. And it's like, put I don't necessarily see like the new stuff, like the new live action series, like having that type of longevity, maybe 2-3 seasons at the most. But they have a real chance here on creating something special. And so far from this whole pool of projects that we've been talking about and viewing, like I'm really enjoying Lower Decks, and I will be purchasing this Blu-ray as well to add to my shelf and add to my collection. I've already started with one. I'm not going to stop now, but I would like to see more more projects, more, whether it's like a another movie, another show, like something that will draw me into the brand a lot more. Because even like you said, John, like the J.J. Abrams movies, like I love those movies too, and I own all of them except for the second one, Into Darkness with
Yeah.
Benedict Cumberbatch. That's the only one I don't own. But yeah, I mean, they were. I thought they were on a good path. With that timeline.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. It's a shame that they couldn't come together. But maybe now. Well, I don't know. I think there's been a little bit more water under the bridge than was necessary
Yeah.
to make the fourth movie for that series. But regardless, it's like I think there were good ideas a few years ago, but
Mhm.
like I think there's a little bit of that. Like more time has passed than you need to be. If they were able to pull it off, I think it would be fine. But remember, we're actually literally missing at least two people. Like one of them died.
Yeah.
The guy who
God
played
rest-
Chekhov, like, yeah, he's dead. I mean,
Yeah.
he died in a tragic accident. This is like,
Mhm.
well, can you replace him? Sure, you can replace him. No worries. But the rest of them, like, I don't know. Chris Pine might be commanding a little bit more salary nowadays. And
Hmm.
I think the idea that they wanted to do was to have Chris Hemsworth replay his father again, and like and I had to tell people like when you see this movie, Chris Hemsworth's right there in the beginning. This is pre-Thor.
Yep.
Now he's just like he's got a price tag. It's like
Or we get Quentin Tarantino's movie about the gangster planet.
I'd be down to watch that.
But it's like it's his
idea.
idea. It's not him actually writing it.
Yeah, too true. I don't think that's going to be a reality there, but with him. Well, we'll have to see, I guess. So, all right, guys, I think that'll pretty much wrap it up for our cast. And hey, we'll catch you next time.
All right, later's everyone.
Have a good weekend, kiddies.